Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some soft morning rolls, or maybe soft Scottish morning rolls, you might know them as. And they're very simple to make, very few ingredients, but they're ideal as a breakfast roll with bacon in or something, or egg, whatever. So for the ingredients, I have 450 grams, which is about 3.5 cups of strong white bread flour. I have 150 millilitres, which is a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of lukewarm milk, 150 millilitres, half a cup, 2 tablespoons of lukewarm water, 1 packet, 7 grams of active dry yeast, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So that would be 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast. And what I'm going to do is to put the yeast into the warm milk, and I'm going to leave that for 10 minutes for it to activate. And then while that's activating, I'm going to add the salt into the flour and stir that around so that that's all ready to be used for the dough. And then I'll be back in 10 minutes when the yeast has activated. So our yeast is activated in the milk, and I'm going to pour it into the flour, and I'm going to pour the water in as well, and then I'm going to mix it around until it begins to form a dough. You can use your hands to do this, but I like to start off with something else. And it quickly begins to form a nice sticky mass. And then you get your hand in and start to pull it together. Kneading it. And you want to knead this for about 4 or 5 minutes until it all forms a nice dough. So, our dough has been kneaded for about 5 minutes, and I put it onto a lightly floured work surface to finish the kneading. What I'm going to do is put it into a lightly greased bowl, top side down first, and then turn it over. And I'm going to cover that with plastic wrap. And I'm going to leave it to prove until it's doubled in size, and that will take an hour to an hour and a half, I guess, depending on the heat in the kitchen. And then I'll come back and we'll go on to make our rolls. Okay, so it's been a couple of hours since I left this bread to prove, this dough to prove, should I say, and it's more than doubled in size, which may be a little bit too much, but I'm going to knock it back. And then I'm going to tip it out onto a floured surface. And I'm just going to weigh it because I want to divide it into 10 pieces. So I want each piece to be about 77 grams in weight. So that's 77 grams. And what I'm going to do with each of those is just to fold them over on itself like that to create a nice little ball. Just like that. And then I'm going to set them to one side onto a baking tray for a moment. I'll do the other 10 and then we'll go on to the next step. The other 9, should I say. And with our 10 pieces of dough rolled out into balls, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just flatten them a little bit on some flour, and then I'm just going to gently roll them out until they're about 3.5 inches or 9 centimetres in diameter. And then I'm going to place them back onto a baking tray. And with those rolled out, I'll do the other 5 in a minute. What I'm going to do is to place those into a polythene bag or a plastic bag and leave them to prove again for about 30 minutes. And while they're proving, I'm going to preheat my oven to 200 Celsius. That's 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit, and they would be ready to bake in the oven. So I'll prove them and come back before I put them in the oven. So it's been actually about 40 minutes and I've let these rise for that amount of time. Then they're not perfectly round, but rolls aren't perfectly round, so you don't need to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is lightly brush some egg over the top. Now if you see some air bubbles, then just gently press down on those air bubbles to distribute them. I don't actually see any, so I'm hoping that there aren't that many there. So I brush egg over all of them. This will help them brown. Now some people like to put these close together so that they join up during baking, but you don't need to do that. And then when I've covered them with a little bit of milk, I'm going to gently dust them with some flour. Again, other people also dust them with flour when they come out of the oven, but I'm not going to do that. And that's only because I really don't like the powdery taste when I eat them. So we'll take a little bit of flour into a sieve. And just gently tap it. Now I have my oven preheating, as I said before, at 200 Celsius. That's 180 Celsius with a fan, 400 Fahrenheit. And I'm going to bake these for between 12 and 15 minutes until the top's got a nice golden brown colour. So I'll put these into the oven, bake them, let them cool, and then I'll come back and show you the results. Okay, so our soft morning rolls have baked, and they are nice and soft. And I've cut one open so you can see inside. Now these are ideal. As I said, you can sprinkle flour over the top, which is traditionally how they're served, but I'm not going to do that. But these are ideal to have in the morning with egg or bacon or something. But you could use them for almost anything. Now, although these are called soft morning rolls, they're also known in some parts of England as Baps, and in northwest England they're known as Barm cakes, and there's a host of different other names. If you cook them, a number of them close together so that they join together, they're known as batch rolls as well. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, as ever, there will be an eye that you can click on, which will take you to the recipe, and I'll put a link to it below the video as well. Then I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future, and so until then, happy baking. And my sister's standing behind the camera being rather silly, as sisters are wont to do. So I'll be back with you very shortly with another video. Until then, happy baking.